Is it on? Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to GameWalks.
GameWalks.
Walk with me.
Is this episode 2?
Episode 2, March 18th, 2013 of the new podcast.
All right.
The only show where there is a very real chance that someone will jack this $400 iPhone that is hanging on the end of a 6-foot pole as we walk through San Francisco streets during rush hour.
That's our USP. You know, we talk about your unique selling proposition.
Exactly.
The only podcast where the camera
You
has
might
a good
witness
chance
an
of
actual
being
theft
stolen.
while this podcast is being recorded. It's true.
Yes.
So what's the top story today,
What's
Jim?
Well, I mean, what I think would be the top story is that we saw that John Riccitiello, the CEO of Electronic Arts, is stepping down from his role after
6 years.
6 years on the job.
Four of those years with us, right?
Yeah,
No, 3 of those years?
Three? Yeah, 3. We were there for the first 3 of those years. What do you think?
So I thought he did the classy thing by acknowledging a lot of responsibility for not being able to hit guidance in his step down letter. Honestly, I'm so far removed from the business of it. The executive level decisions at a company like EA, they tend to just get in the way of what I want to do, which is like make awesome games. So I think as a game developer, you're always sort of predisposed to not have a tremendous amount of respect towards your senior leadership. But I guess hasn't been the case at every company I've worked for. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what other leadership changes follow after this. You know, usually when there's a regime change at this high a level, you can expect to see some departures, some other people being pushed out. And I'm really curious what EA is going to look like in 6 months to a year.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were there when stock price was at $55, $60 a share, and now it's been hovering around 15 to 20 for the past couple of years.
So interestingly, the stock price, it's up after hours about 5% last time I checked. However, in his resignation, he acknowledged that they were going to miss their fiscal year.
Yeah, that's probably going to have some impact on it.
So the stock's up a little that he's on his way out, but probably down a little then kind of.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to me is, you mentioned like wanting to make awesome games, and like that does seem to be the best role that any executive in our business can do, is are you enabling your talented people to make awesome games? And I think there are certain things that JR did to enable that with studios like Visceral, doing Dead Space, and I think BioWare is continuing to put out some really good games out of their Edmonton studio.
And as he is always very quick to mention, he did allow the team to take a risk with Mirror's Edge.
Yeah, Mirror's Edge was a good risk. I think there's some others, franchises though that we've seen have not kind of maintained the quality, like Medal of Honor. You saw the Metacritic of Dead Space go down in this last revision.
Yep.
So it's tough to say exactly what kind of his long-term impact on the company will be, if some of those franchises and studios will continue to thrive, or will certain of them start to shrink down.
And certainly you and I care a lot about the console business and the core PC games business.
Yep.
That's where we worked, and that's where we spend a lot of our free time. But I think the thing that Riccitiello is going to use as a feather in his cap is the work that he did on transitioning EA to digital. He's going to point to games like The Simpsons Tapped Out and the PopCap acquisition and their mobile social strategy. Was he successful in those endeavors? I mean, you have to admit, he was the CEO during a tumultuous period of change for the industry.
Yeah, I think it was an incredibly difficult job. I get, like you said earlier, I don't really understand the full financial side of how they value like an acquisition like PopCap, but when I look at that situation, I love Plants vs. Zombies. I love games like Bejeweled Blitz, and I love some of the other downloadable titles. But since the acquisition, PopCap has not, I don't even think, released a new game.
Yeah.
And especially not one that's made any buzz. So you spend $1 billion on a company that was making revenues of about $150 million a year. Let's say that they were only making profits of, let's say 75 million a year is pretty good. That's 50% return. That's going to take you 10 to 15 years to break even on that purchase. Now, I don't know if that's exactly
Certainly
how the
that's
numbers
not the
work
whole
out.
reason why you would do it. You also want to get their knowledge of how to develop social games. You want to fill in a weak spot in your portfolio.
Yeah.
You have to, and the talent acquisition involved, the power of combining those IPs. Like, is this going to lead to, well, we already know that Plants vs. Zombies is on Xbox Live Arcade, but, other things like that.
Yep. So
platforms we can buy.
I think at the time, it's a good bet to take. But you look at the follow-up of how long has it been now since the acquisition? Like
feels like a year.
Like a year. And I'm trying to see what you're just talking about. Yeah, they are starting to integrate that into their portfolio and really start to turn that into a valuable acquisition.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the thing where, we'll see where it is in 6 months, see where it is a year from now. There were some good games on the phone, like Simpsons Tapped Out is good. Real Racing 3 right now is getting a lot of positive buzz. The Sims Social had its day in the sun. I know they spent a ton on user acquisition for that game, so you got to wonder if their growth was.
That game
was truly organic, or was it?
Sim Social and SimCity Social at least felt like they had smart people making smart decisions in the social game space.
Yeah, although
a lot of their other games that I've played do not, like for example, have not embraced the free-to-play model on the iOS platform.
They did just shut down the EA 2D branch though, just I think like last week or 2 weeks ago, which is where Dragon Age Legends was made. So something on that one probably didn't work out for them.
But a lot of these other social games come from is it Playfish acquisition that they have?
So it's tough right now to call whether those impacts on digital are going to provide a lot of long-term momentum for them. So we'll see. We will see.
I would not sign up for that job, especially with 2020 hindsight, watching the industry transition from, no new console cycle for over 10 years, the switch to downloadable games, the sentiment that a $3.99 purchase on an iPhone is like a lot of money as compared to the sentiment that a $60 purchase on Xbox is just the cost of entry.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of industry trends. I don't want to give the guy too much slack, but I would not sign up for that job.
Although you do get 2 years worth of salary and vesting from now until then. Yeah. So that's not a bad job. Would you take your job for that?
But isn't that's just a CEO golden parachute thing? That doesn't have. That's not specific to Riccitiello. But 2 years.
But if they were to offer you the role, like Matt, we want you to be CEO of EA. And if you leave a week from now, you get 2 years. It's pretty good, right?
It's pretty good.
I don't think that's how it works.
I'd sign up for it. Yeah, you're right.
Sign up for a week, and then I don't think it's working out.
Do you have any thoughts on who the successor is going to be, or what the new strategy is? Riccitiello's strategy.
I was watching a few videos. They're obviously going to look at both internal and external candidates. Frank Chabot's been there for a long time. I like Frank a lot. Frank. He started as an intern at EA.
How funny.
Which I don't know if a lot of people know.
Does anybody do that anymore?
Company
for your whole career?
I know, it's kind of cool though. That's kind of cool. I like that. So he's been there for I think almost 20 years, and he's definitely a candidate next in line. Peter Moore, obviously.
Hey, didn't you start as an intern at EA?
I did.
If that's a good qualification to be CEO, then
I would have had to stay though throughout the whole thing.
I think we should put you on the short list.
Well, GDC's next week. I'll bump into some board members and be like, hey, just want to throw my name.
So here's my resume.
First order of business is to make a new Wing Commander game. That's the first thing I'm going to do with my executive power.
If only the fans got to pick the next CEO,
that's right.
You would have my vote.
Yeah. Post on Kotaku. If you want a new Wing Commander game, vote for me. And then I have no idea who they look at externally. I don't. I think Riccitiello started out at like Sarah Lee or something, and they brought him in from Albertsons or whatever. So these guys can come from anywhere, or they might pick a veteran game person who's been around the block a little bit.
One of the EPs or general managers.
I think of someone like Lou Castle or someone who's had a long successful career and kind of knows the EA way of things and has been around at Zynga a little bit and has been around to some of these new businesses. But I don't know.
That's all black magic and voodoo to me. I have no idea. That's how it works. So let's talk about the bigger EA strategy. When Riccitiello came on board, his first action was to split it into 4 labels, and I think that's been largely successful: games, sports,
Yeah,
social.
they've juggled them
casual.
around though, because I remember.
But just the idea of label heads, 4 smaller companies within a company.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean that can help.
So now flash forward to where we're at today, 6 years later. What's going to save EA? I mean, the stock price has been teetering. It hasn't risen. Is it strictly a quality matter where they need to be making better games, or is there some business-oriented decisions that could save?
I mean, I think there are certain things. I would have no idea what the magic formula is, but I know what you don't do, and what you don't do is you don't have launches like SimCity, where you create just terrible PR for yourself and alienate your most valuable customers. You gotta hit quality on your big titles. You cannot have Dead Space 3 be a 78. It's not good enough anymore. It's got to be 85 plus, ideally 90 plus. You just don't get to release that many games anymore. And they have to be big hits. You got to sell 5 million units like they initially wanted. And I think it sold 600K in its first couple weeks out, which it's just not good enough in my opinion.
And it's bad for gamers too, because it lets down the gamers when the game doesn't live up to their expectations. But 2, we really need innovative, groundbreaking games like Dead Space. Thankfully, with the cost of entry in these indie games being so low these days, we do still see a lot of innovation and moving the medium forward.
I think it's a great time to be a gamer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you're
it's not coming from
if you're a leader at EA, you got to hit big quality in your titles. Battlefield is still delivering. That's great. You got to do that with all of your franchises. You can't afford to have Medal of Honor be whatever it was, a 60 rated game, and then you have to lay off the team and you have to I mean that's not going to
commercial
provide
art is just
value.
such a complicated business. I mean, they're very much hits driven. They want to make great games, but they also want to hit business metrics. In a lot of cases, those things are opposed goals in opposition.
So I think
it's tough to be a game publisher.
So it's a combination of you got to hit quality on your big bets, and then you have to continue to push on the digital space, on the free-to-play space, mobile tablet, and grow that side of the business throughout this transition. It's not going to be an easy job for anyone that comes in.
Well, Riccitiello will be rooting from the sidelines. Will you be rooting from the sidelines?
Absolutely, I will too. I still have a lot of heart for EA
and some shares.
We still have some shares. So a lot of vested interest in that company. So
all right, well,
that's GameWalks episode 2. All
right,
we'll see you next time.